What's up, y'all? My name is Ian Edwards, and welcome to the Soccer Comic Rant. Happy New Year. Actually, uh, Lee Hudson, stand-up comic, Southampton fan. He's on from England. And what year is it there right now, Lee?
2024, right here now. It is 43 minutes into 2024 in the UK. So we might be making podcast history.
Damn, because I'm in California. It's 4:43 p.m. So this podcast, like y'all never seen no shit like this. Lee pointed this out to me that there's a podcast that's happening to right now. This you're watching or listening is being filmed in two different years at the same time. I'm in 2023 and he's in 2024 already. So what's 2024 like? Like what should I expect?
I mean, there's flying cars. Man United are good again.
What?
It's like all sorts of crazy stuff is happening.
Oh shit, that's crazy! I can't wait to get there. I got 8 hours, but man, Man United are good again. Forget the flying cars. That's more impressive. Damn, bro. That's crazy. I wish that was true. Thanks for joining, man. And you were just out doing some shows?
Yeah, I had 3 shows all in London tonight, which was it's my first year. Like, I'm just coming up to 7 years in comedy, and this was my first year working New Year's Eve. All the other years I've just done stuff with friends, and I was like, no, I want to see what this is about. But all 3 shows were calm. They were chilled. It was all people who, like, some of them were drinking, but none of them were crazy. Like, it was all people who I think just wanted to do something nice on New Year's Eve.
Right.
And yeah, I was ready. I was ready for war going into these shows. And then they were just nice.
That is not my New Year's Eve doing stand-up reality at all. Like it was mostly like you have to be your sharpest and your hardest because people, like, all our shows are late. Like, most of the time I book a show, whether I'm doing a local show at the Laugh Factory, the Comedy Store, just telling someone, like, they put me on like 1:45. So then I got to end the set bringing in the New Year's and keep their attention up to that point because they're starting to pass the drinks around. People are buzzing. People are checking their phone. Everybody's watch got a different time. And some people will think it's New Year's already. Sometimes I got the wrong time and I'm doing it late. So, normally it's like that. But yeah, I'm not doing anything tonight. I'm just chilling.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny, like, you've been doing it 7 years and you want to do shows. Now I've done that. And now I just want to, like, see if there's a party or somebody's not, when I say not even a club, like if a friend is having a house party, like Russell Peters will sometimes have like a dope house party or just some comic, and it's just good to go there and everybody has fun.
Yeah, that's more my vibe. If I do go out, house parties over clubs now. I'm too old for that shit too. But yeah, it's I was still at that point where I was enthusiastic to go and do New Year's Eve shows. But we finished way before midnight though, which was nice. My final show was 9 p.m. So yeah, I don't know if there's many here where they ring in the new year on stage, because I think British people would just be way too feral for that.
I think that's smart. I think that you do that. Like, a lot of some shows, a lot of the shows I did, they went well, but you still have that dread when. One night, I'm at the Comedy Store. Tommy, the guy that ran the spot, he put Carlos Mencia on before me, like in his prime. Like, he's big comic, he's loud, he's vocal, and he's roused the crowd up. And then you throw me on 15 minutes before midnight. Now I got to follow Carlos Mencia and the New Year. It's like, but I would always handle it. So I'm happy that I did. But Jesus. But now,
whose jokes was Carlos doing?
Hilarious. Carlos did steal jokes, but he did have jokes of his own, and that's the sad thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just as long, just as long as it wasn't mine. Like I'm not paying attention. But he used to have some original shit.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, but he's just, you can't do it, can't do that.
Nope.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll down the table. It's the end of the year. And in December, after the Christmas games, it's a good marker to try to figure out who might win the Premier League or who might exit the Premier League at the end of the year. Mm. So it's kind of packed up the top. It's like 5 teams within 4 points, less than 4, 3 points of each other. And it might some of those teams might drop out of the top 5 and new ones enter depending on how the year goes. And we're going to see who's going to last at the bottom, because even the teams at the bottom, I feel like they gained some ground during the Christmas weekend or Christmas, games. So we'll see what's up. So at the top of the table, we got Liverpool. You'll never walk alone. 12 wins, 6 draw, 1 tie. They got 42 points. And tomorrow they play Newcastle. And that's going to be a tough game because Newcastle has been losing lately. They can't afford to lose anymore. They've also been rocked with a scandal, which I don't know if it's true. Could you mention the scandal?
The one I posted in the group the other day?
Yeah, the one you posted in the group. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was apparently this rumor that there were players that were all staying in they were living in a 5-star hotel in the city, and they were having escorts to the hotel and all sorts of things, and that their wives had found out about it or something crazy like that. It very much sounded like a Twitter rumor, because I think any problems they've had have been caused by injuries, not by players all having marital problems at the same time. But I love a crazy Twitter rumor. Right. But they keep things fun. As I say, you can never quite sort of verify the integrity of the source, but I'm still going to read them.
Right. I mean, that's what Twitter or X is for. I don't know if this is true, if this is a true thing. Professional players have a bunch of escorts, but as a non-professional player, I sometimes gave up sex to go play football, and now I know I was doing it wrong. I should have had more sex, and I would have ended up being a professional football player. Because I used to be like, "Nah, you can't come over," or "I just want to sleep so I can play this Saturday game in the park with the small goals with some dudes I know and some dudes I don't know for no crowd, for nothing." So if I did it wrong. I did it wrong. It's have some ladies of the night pull up and it'll improve your game. You'll be in the top. You play Champions League this year. So, all right. Thanks for the football lesson, Newcastle, if this is true or not.
There was, I don't know if you remember, there was an Italian player called Antonio Cassano. He played sort of early mid-2000s. He was notorious apparently for always sneaking women.
He's the white Balotelli. Both of them.
Yeah.
Both of them could have been, and they both, they're the black and white version of each other.
Yeah, he was so skilled. He was such a quality player, but there were 2 things he loved more than football, and that was food and women. So he went through spells in his career where he looked a bit overweight, but he was apparently always, when they had the team hotels before the game, where the players all had to stay at a hotel the night before the game, in order to keep them sort of disciplined and whatnot. Apparently he would pay hotel staff to allow women to sneak in through the restaurant or something, or through the service entrance or something up to his room, so that the team staff didn't know. But yeah, he's admitted to it all in interviews and stuff since he's retired. He seems pretty happy with the choices he made.
Does he have a book?
I don't know if he has a book. Let me see if I can find
I'd
some
read that
quotes.
book. I'd read that book. If he's like, remember those quotes from what's the Man United, the guy that drank a lot? We spoke about him recently this year. It's an amazing guy. I can't just say his name right now. Damn, why can't I remember his name? He's like Dennis. He played with Dennis Law. He's like the Holy Trinity.
Oh, George Best.
Yeah, I can't remember George Best's name. But one of my resolutions is to get my memory back. Yeah, like George Best has some funny ass football quotes. I wonder if Cassano has any like George Best.
I'm just reading here. He claimed that he had slept with up to 700 women by the time he turned 25. That was that was his claim.
Only 700? He's slipping.
Yeah,
I would have thought he would have done more than that.
Oh no, he has got an autobiography. We
got to read that on the show. We got to do a chapter an episode.
Yeah, who knows if they did it in English? But yeah, he apparently there's a bit where he talks about eating pastries after an orgy. So, like I said, the guy just food and women. There is two things.
That's very Italian. That's very Italian.
Oh.
Super Italian. So I don't even know how did we even get to Cassano? Because we were talking about Liverpool, right?
Because they're playing they're playing Newcastle tomorrow or today for me.
Today, yeah. Well, next year for me, this year for you. So Liverpool at the top of the table, they got 42 points. My opinion on Liverpool so far is like I'm not surprised where they are. And I always thought there was a possibility that they could win the title this season. They replenish their midfield. But one thing I do notice that's pretty good, I think Klopp has learned from his mistakes, is he rotates his midfield. He doesn't rotate his midfield from game to game, but within each game. Like he'll switch all three midfielders who started the game, and by the end of the game, to keep up the intensity and the pressure that his first Liverpool squad used to apply to teams, just to make sure he'll send in a new three. Like, I think he's used 5 subs the most this season. And Liverpool has depth. All the players are playing. Like, when Klopp first got his Liverpool formula together, he would only play the same guys and maybe once in a while throw somebody. He'd have to get desperate to use like Shaqiri or even Oxlade-Chamberlain or somebody like that. But he just kept that rotation, the same dudes. But now he's like 3 in, and next 3 warm up. You're going in the next half at some point. Like Elliott gets in there, Jones gets in there, Gravenbach gets in there. Like the only player that hasn't played yet is Bajcetic because he's injured. But I feel that Liverpool is the number 1 contender this year because of the depth and everybody's getting a run. And so, I feel like Liverpool is back, unfortunately. How you feel about them?
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I think out of because I think obviously Arsenal and Liverpool are like the 2 main contenders to challenge City. Because I think City can come through and make up the ground. They already showed in the last couple of games that they got the quality to do that. But I think out of the 2, Liverpool seem like they have the mentality and the depth, like you were saying, in order to sustain a challenge. Because I mean, Arsenal, I think, have won 1 in their last 5 now. Obviously, they lost yesterday. No, today against Fulham. Yeah. And then against West Ham.
This year, last year for you.
And then they lost to West Ham as well the other day as well, after Christmas. So, like we were saying, this period is where you find out about your squad depth, you find out about your mentality when the games are coming every 2-3 days. And, Arsenal, they came through it last season, but this season they seem to have crumbled early. And that's not to say they can't get back on track, and they can, because they're not in a terrible position after this poor run. But yeah, I think Liverpool have just got that extra bit of quality to see it out. It'd be interesting to see how they cope with Salah going to the African Cup of Nations. I mean, all Liverpool fans will be wishing the very worst on the Egyptian national team, hoping that he comes back. He comes back early, but I mean, they've got firepower in that team even without him. They've still got Jota, they've still got Nunez, they've still got Gakpo, Harvey Elliott as well. They've got players who can play well in those forward positions. Yeah, they're well stocked there, and then Diaz as well. And they've got players though that crucially now can weigh in with goals from the midfield. Like Soboslai has been scoring a couple recently. He can hit it from distance. He hasn't quite caught fire at Liverpool yet, but Gravenberch has done it before for Ajax. In the past, he's shown he can score goals, so I'm sure he could step up as well. But yeah, Gakpo's got goals in him. They've still got like good players to come back that they've been missing as well, like Robertson. They've still got to come back into the team. Like you say, Bajcetic has been injured. I think Thiago's been injured as well.
I forgot about Thiago. They still got Thiago?
Yeah, he's still there. He's still there.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah, I mean, they managed to ride out a spell with Alisson injured as well for a few games, without really missing too much of a step. So, yeah, it's I would put Liverpool up there as the number one contender to finish, either first or second, depending on how well City come back. So yeah, I think they deserve to be top right now. They've managed to ride through the Christmas period fairly well, which is not easy to do. So yeah, I rate them. It's impressive as well. I think credit to Klopp for managing to take the team through the cycle that he has, because it looked like it had gone stale there, especially when he sort of held on to some players maybe a little bit too long. And that was the thing. We've said this before as well, that that was one of the marks of like a great manager in like Ferguson at United. He was able to manage Man United through various like player transitions, where he had to rebuild either multiple units of the team or one unit of the team, and like Klopp has done with the midfield this year. So yeah, credit to him. That's the mark of a really great manager, to be able to ride out that that lull and then bring a team back to being successful, because normally it results in a manager leaving or getting fired when that lull happens. Obviously he's built up enough credit in the bank at Liverpool for them to say, as long as you're happy to keep doing this, we'll stick with you and we'll trust you and we'll give you the tools to rebuild. And then it's paying off for them.
Yeah, it's paying off. And then one more thing I want to say about Liverpool is that they've got these players in, and the team seems to be renewed, and there's something I want to say, but it's just left my mind right now. But hopefully it'll come back. But I'm going to say something that's pretty. Listen, number two. Nobody would expect me to say this. Number two, last day of the year, first day of the year for you. Aston Villa is number two with 42 points. They're tied with Liverpool, even though Liverpool has a game in hand. And after 20 games, they got 13 wins, 3 draws, and 4 losses. And I'm not going to say I told you so. I'm not even surprised. Like, I saw how Villa ended last season. It was a great run. So I expected them to be good this year. And they're living up to the expectations that I had of them. Some other people might have had the expectations. Even Villa fans might not have had the expectations. Not that they shouldn't have had. It's just that you're a Villa fan and you're jaded and you don't want to jinx where you're at now before you get there. So you might be like, yeah, we're going to do good, but we're not going to do that good. But yeah, you are that good. And I was talking to Lloyd earlier, and he gets insulted a lot the way Talk Sports doesn't talk about Aston Villa and the way they talk about other teams. Like he talks about all the props that Postecoglou's getting, and he's like, "What about Emery?" And I'm like, "Hey man, you don't want people to start looking at Emery, or else because that's when they're gonna pick him off from you." Even though I don't think Emery will go, but Aston Villa on December 31st, 2023, is number 2 in the Premier League, man, and that's pretty amazing. This is not a fluke. They beat some real teams. The only thing I would say is you tried to disrespect Man United on Boxing Day, and you went up 2-0 at our home, and you thought you had it in the bag, and you started singing "You're Getting Sacked in the Morning," and you lost that game 3-2. Like United handed you one, and the you know what was better than the game? Going to the official Instagram of Aston Villa and going in the comments under that score of 3-2. Man, you guys, Villa fans, bro, they got no chill. Fire Emery. He's not a big time winning coach. He bottled it. He should be ashamed of. He did this, and it's like they forgot all this goodwill. This, bro. You're second. You're second. Like I could have just imagined if they didn't get that penalty that I don't think they should have gotten at the end of this game. That this weekend, I just want to talk about that game a little bit against who did Villa play?
Burnley.
Burnley. Shady win against Burnley. That penalty at the last minute of the game, shouldn't have gotten it. Also, that was a handball from your right back that it should have been at least a free kick. So, but I did speak to Lloyd, and he did say the game before against, I think, Sheffield, they deserved 3 penalties. You did deserve 1 for sure. So maybe that's just football, but you ain't deserve no penalty. You did not deserve this win against a 10-man Burnley. Burnley, you put up a great fight, and you came back from 2-1 down with 10 men, tied it, and they stole that game from you. And I'm hating because Man United is used to being second. So I'm an honest hater. So I'm hating on Aston Villa as much as I'm praising them. I'm doing both. I'm hating on you, but you are legitimately second. Any thoughts on Villa?
Yeah, just that they've earned it. They need to be taken seriously. And I think, even though they're level with Liverpool right now, I think a realistic aim for them is to finish top 4. Because it will be hard with the other teams that are in there. Like there's no reason at the moment why they can't. They're in great form. They've got good players. But they're still in Europe as well, so they're going to have fixtures piling up when the cups start as well after Christmas, the FA Cup and that, because that's coming soon. I think the next weekend. So yeah, I think a realistic goal for them in the position they've put themselves in right now is Champions League qualification, which would be huge for them. They've not been in the Champions League. I mean, they're former Champions League winner or European Cup winners, but that was,
right,
a long, long time ago. So for them to return to that level would be a massive achievement, given the teams and the budgets they're up against. And if there are any crazy Villa fans out there who are wanting to call for Emery's head after the loss to United, I have 2 words for you, and those words are Steven Gerrard. It could be worse. Don't be thinking that you're above the likes of Emery now. He's got you to this position. He deserves the credit. You could still be stuck with just bad managers like Gerrard, who, side note, is on a 2-month losing streak in Saudi Arabia with his team that has Jordan Henderson in it, who's still getting picked for England somehow while he's playing for a club that have 400 fans at their games, and haven't won for 2 months in Saudi Arabia. Gerrard was always tipped for getting the Liverpool job one day when Klopp goes or something, but he is as far from that now as he's ever been.
He's further from that job than Saudi Arabia is from England.
Yeah, he's going to have to go even further to try and rebuild his reputation. He's going to have to go to the Australian League or something. He's going to have to He's going to have to work his way back to Liverpool around the other side of the world. He's going to have to go to the Australian League, and then he's going to have to come to the MLS. He's going to have to work his way back around that way. He can't come back via Europe. No European team's going to hire him now. He's got to go the other way. It's so yeah, Villa fans, just be humble and respect what Emery's done, because my God, you've had some dark days, and these are not. These are the best days you've had in decades. And I'm enjoying watching them play, though. I like the way they play. They got fast, sort of free-flowing, attacking football with, Diaby, Bailey and Watkins is a really fun attack to watch, because they can all get the ball down and run at people. They're all good finishers as well. And they're all laying on chances for each other as well. Like Watkins got 2 assists against Burnley. He's normally the goal scorer. So the fact that he's willing to be unselfish as well, that bodes well. So yeah, credit to Villa. They're up there. They're up there on merit. I still think a title challenge might be a little bit too far past them, but top 4 for sure should be the aim. And I hope they get it, because if they get top 4, it means Spurs don't. And that's what it comes down to for me.
It also means we don't. So
you ain't getting that. You ain't getting that anyway.
I know, but I can't even. That's a position of powerlessness I'm in. I can't even argue from somebody in division in the championship is slandering Man United, and I got no grounds. I got no grounds to stand on. And just to back up what you're saying, like the fans go to that post under the Villa Man United score, check out the comments. People are going hard at Emery and saying he's not a championship coach. And this guy has won more than Villa has in the last 20 years. He's got more jewelry, more trophies than you guys. So you can go back to your European title that you mentioned. I know Villa won the Premier League. Emery's won more than you completely with different teams altogether. He's won a league. You know what I'm saying? Didn't he win the League One? He's won. So calm down, Villa fans. But you are real football fans the way you went off on him.
I just had a look. They won the European Cup in 1982. And I'm not sure they've played at that level of football since then. So
yeah, it's been a minute, guys. Calm down. Leave your coach alone. You're going to lose some games. Listen, this is the most competitive, and we say this every year, and it's the truth every year, but this is the most competitive the Premier League has ever been. You're going to lose some games to some teams. It's competitive, so when it happens, why you're tripping? It's like you're just not going to win every game, Man City, and they're third. They have 40 points, 2 points out of first place, but they have a game in hand. But not only do they have a game in hand, but they have a Haaland in hand, and they have a De Bruyne in hand, who De Bruyne was just dressed on the bench. He's been injured. Man City, they've actually lost 3 games and had 3 draws, which is a lot for them at this point of the season. But if these 2 people, Haaland and De Bruyne, come back, they could go on the run of runs. And I feel like they kind of set an intention. Like, when your vision board is the actually things on your vision board, like when the beginning of the game that they had this weekend against, who did they play? They played
Sheffield United most recently, and Everton before that.
Yeah, they played Sheffield, their last game. And they disrespected Sheffield at the beginning of the game. They put all 5 trophies there. Imagine your vision board is the things that you want to win is the same vision board that you actually have, like all the 5 trophies. And they put them out at the Etihad and said, "Come on, Sheffield, let's play," which is disrespectful to a team at the bottom of the league. And it's like, how do you think? And then you have Haaland and De Bruyne, one on the bench, one in street clothes. And if you're Sheffield United, you're like, God damn, like, what did we just step into? But Man City, they are the champs until they are not the champs, and they're third, and they've lost Rodri for some of those games where they drop points, and he's back. He scored this weekend. So until somebody beats them, they are my team that I'm picking to win the league. And what you got on City?
Yeah, I'd agree. You know, I don't, like I said, I don't think they're too far away that they can't make up that distance. It's literally 2 points. And yeah, just like you were saying, having Haaland to come back in, having De Bruyne to come back in, because their squad is quality even without them. Doku hasn't even been in the team for a few weeks as well because he's been out. He wasn't even in the squad for this game. So you know they're missing all these guys. Yet the lineup was still Alvarez with Silva, Foden, and Grealish behind him, and then Rodri and Kovacic behind them. It's like, you know, they're missing all these quality players, and then that's still the lineup they put out. Like that's that squad's just ridiculous. And I think that sort of depth and firepower is what will probably win them the title again. You know, I'd love to see someone else win it just for the good of the league more than anything. Because I think the more different teams that win it, the better it is for the league in general, for football in this country in general. Even if the other teams that win it are other filthy rich clubs. But yeah, I mean, I can't see past them. Just because, you know, I think they've had their struggles. They had their struggles in the first half of the season. The second half of the season is normally where they come strong, and they haven't even got that much ground to make up like they did last year on Arsenal. You know, they're within touching distance already, so that should worry people.
Yeah, and then just to, you know, you mentioned all those names, and then they just pull names out their ass that you never heard of, like Oscar Bob had a great assist to an assistant, and you're like, what's an Oscar Bob? It's some kid they got that we didn't know about. They sold a Cole Palmer, and it wasn't nothing to them because then they got a Doku out of nowhere, and then you got Jamal Lewis, and you don't know who. And they heard they're buying this. I think you put it in the chat. This Argentinian kid, like, and I don't remember Pep ever having a bad buy at City. There's one who's a potential bad buy, and it's the midfielder that they got from Leeds. But even he could still Phillips. Even he could still turn into something. So yeah, and I feel like City's so good that somebody would still pay the same amount of money for Calvin Phillips that Pep bought him for. You know what I mean? And that's the value of City. Like City dollars keep their value. You know what I'm saying? Arsenal is fourth. They got 20 wins. They got 12 wins, 4 losses, and 4 draws. I think Arsenal's running out of gas. They just lost 2 games in a row. And I think they run out of gas because they don't have the depth that they need to be in Europe, to be in the competitions that they're still in England, and to be the Premier League. Like, I feel like they're going to, you know, you always talk about them running Saka to death, and he played again today, but they also running Declan Rice to death. Like, and Partey is not back yet. He'll help Declan Rice a little bit, but their depth is fake depth. Like, they don't really want to use. Why can I never say his name? Is it Junior that they got? Who's the midfielder they got from Chelsea that won the Euros and the Champions League?
Jorginho,
yeah. Like, they don't really want to use him. And all the times I used to defend him when he was at Chelsea, when Neil used to go in on him, I kind of understand why he's not a good CDM now and won't help them win a title, because I see we have players like that in our midfield at United. And I was like, oh, I get exactly what Neil was saying. So they just lack depth. Like, I don't know who would replace Saka if he's out for a game or 2 or if it got suspended. I feel like Arteta has also ruined Smith Rowe, who was as good as Saka when he started. And for some way, somehow, he's just like, that's not the Smith Rowe when he does get in a game that I saw when him and Saka first came out. And I think Arteta made a critical mistake with that player. He should have included him and kept his level of play up. So I feel like Arsenal will be lucky if they finish 4th this year. but they should finish in the top 4. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they'll still comfortably finish top 4. I mean, they've had a poor spell over the holidays, but they're still 2 points off top. And I think the problem with them is that I think they have depth in terms of talent, but I don't think they have depth in terms of sort of ruthless winners. Like they've got skill in that team. They've got so much technical skill, and a lot of creativity, but they haven't got ruthless finishers. I'm looking at their top scorer list in the Premier League alone. Mm-hmm. They've played. How many games have they played this season? They played 19 games this season. 20. They played 20 games this season. Their top scorers are Saka and Nketiah with 5 each. After 20 games, like if you're looking to win the league, that's not that's not the one. That's not. They bought Jesus to be that guy. He scored 3 goals in the Premier League this season. He's played 14 of the 20. Martinelli is a guy who he had been getting better every single season. Martinelli, like he was getting better and better every single season. His output would go up. He would be doing more, and he's only scored 2 goals this season. And I think teams just know what they're going to do. It's just a bit strange. I mean, I'm looking at the top scorers this year. Like Solanke scored 12 for Bournemouth.
Yeah.
That's a club that are down sort of, although they've improved recently, but it's still, he's still way ahead. Haaland scored 14 and he's not played for.
He took the month off.
It's crazy.
He got more goals than all the scores you mentioned combined.
Yeah. Like Jarrod Bowen has 11 for West Ham. He Chan for Wolves has 10. Watkins for Villa has 9. Isak has 8 for Newcastle, and he's had injuries as he's been injured most of the first half of the season. And Bumo for Brentford has 7. Nicholas Jackson has 7 goals. And that's in an underperforming Chelsea. Chris Wood has 7 goals for Forest. This is just like...
Listen, I can't even say anything. United don't got nobody with 7. So what am I going to say? But you're right.
I'm going down this list, and like Doucouré, who's a central midfielder for Everton, has 6.
This is what you could say. You could say what happens when they do start scoring, and they might start scoring, but I doubt it. And one thing Arteta said after the game that they just lost last year to you, which was today, he said he believes in his players and not buying anyone, but they do need to buy. Everybody knows. Like even though you're not in the same position as Chelsea, you need a forward just as bad as they do. Because you need a forward to win the league, and they need a forward to make sure that their coach don't get fired this season.
Yeah, and I think as well, like they had 2 big needs, which was like they needed Declan Rice. I think that was a good signing for them. I think he's given them something that they maybe lacked a little bit. Although I still think they should have kept Xhaka. I think he gave them a bit more bite in that midfield still. I think like they should have got rid of Jorginho and kept Xhaka. Because he was playing brilliantly for them last season, and then they let him go. And they needed a striker, and they didn't really address that. Like Arteta put his faith in Nketiah, which, I mean, I like Nketiah, but I just don't think he's a league title winning squad forward. I think
2 years from now,
maybe, but I think he needs to maybe go somewhere first. Like when Solanke left Liverpool. He left Chelsea to go to Liverpool and then went down to Bournemouth. Like Nketiah needs to go down to that level of club, I think, to play every single game and learn his craft a bit more. Because at Arsenal, he's in the team, he's out the team, he's in the team, he's out the team. Because Jesus is a little bit injury prone, so he's only really ever in when Jesus is injured or needs a rest. And Jesus, who I think is a great player, like his hold up play is good. He brings other people into play, but he's just not. He's not that guy again. He's not going to get you 20 goals a season. in a team like Arsenal at City, he could maybe do that because he was having stuff put on a plate for him all the time. But I think, yeah, like that extra responsibility, he's not really stepped up. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Arsenal did go out and get anyone in the window. Like they're one of the clubs that's been linked with Ivan Toney from Brentford, who, I mean, he'd give them something different. But there's a couple of other clubs linked with him as well. But I think you're taking a big gamble on putting all your hopes on him when he's not played for more than 6 months now. You know, he'll take some adjustment period to come in and to get up to speed. So I don't think he's the one for a transfer window, like a January transfer window signing. And I think, yeah, it's just it's a position that's hard to recruit for. You know, we've seen so many clubs struggle with that. You know, there's clubs who they've bought those players when they were just potential and they flourished, like Watkins at Villa. He you know, they didn't buy him at the level he's at now. They bought him from Brentford when he was a good player, but you know, he's turned into like a good Premier League striker whilst being there. Solanke, who's got 12 goals this season for Bournemouth, they didn't buy him when he was scoring at this rate in the Premier League. They signed him when he again was potential, and he's built himself up there. So it's hard now to go out and buy players who are ready to come into your team and score those goals. You know, that's why, you know, United went out and got Højlund. It's why Chelsea went and got Jackson. It's, you know, and some of those players might develop into your 15, 20, 25 goal a season striker, and some of them won't. And
it's funny how the big clubs. It's funny how the big clubs are acting like small clubs now and buying potential scorers instead of like people who can put the ball in the back of the net now. You know, so you know, the thing that made United and any top team back, you know, in the past was like you bought the player that was definitely going to put the ball in the back of the net. Like Real Madrid bought Ronaldo. You know, they bought both Ronaldos. They bought, you know, the Figos, the Zidans, you know, the Beckhams, you know, and then now big clubs are like, let's see what's up with this potential. Like Man City, they bought people who put the ball in the back of the net. And then now they buy both, you know. But they're at the level of strength where they can buy potential, bring some people up, and if they need somebody that, you know, can deliver now, they do it. So yeah. I just want to keep it moving because time is going. And so I'll just say Tottenham number 5 and just keep going. Or do you want to? No, I'll say,
I mean,
go ahead.
I sat and watched them against Brighton the other night when they lost 4-2, and that brought me a lot of joy because they were 4-0 down at one point as well, and they just looked like they were tired. They were out on their feet. They were getting absolutely ran through by Brighton, and then they got a couple of goals back. They showed some heart, and that's one of the things under Postecoglou. You know, they got a bit more spirit and a bit more grit about them, and I think that's what makes them, you know, I think probably the team that will nab spot number 5. I'm hoping they don't nab spot number 4 and Villa can stay up in there. But I think, yeah, I mean, they're a different team under Postecoglou to the teams we saw under Conte and Nuno and I think and Mourinho even. Like, I think, yeah, they got a bit more about them, and they bounced back with a win against Bournemouth, which isn't an easy thing to do right now because Bournemouth are a tough team at the moment. They're in good form.
Tell me about it.
But you know, they've still got players out injured to Spurs, and Son, I think, might have one more game before he goes. I'm not sure if he does or not. He might be done now, actually. I think because he's going to go to the Asia Cup, and that could last well into February if South Korea do well. And South Korea are one of the best nations in that tournament. So they got a pre-tournament camp in Dubai or somewhere. So he's going to have to go to that first and then the tournament. So yeah, I mean, Richarlison won't stay scoring forever. He's on a little streak at the moment, but he does that every season. He'll be back to missing soon enough.
Right. They also lost Sarr. They were going to lose Sarr to the African League of Nations, but they lost him to an injury So they were going to lose him either way, and I don't know how bad the injury is, but he's going to be gone. And that, like you said, they're going to lose Son. I'm going to say some things about Spurs. I hate Spurs. I also hate liking them this year too, more than I hate hating them. I hate that I like watching them play. I hate that I like their coach. And I hate that Richarlison is scoring because he doesn't deserve to score. And but they've impressively gotten the team together, and it's a press-up position for this coach who, everybody dumped on him because Scotland football, Scotland football, it's not the Premier League, it's not Premier League. And then he came to the Premier League and showed them I could do the same thing I did in Scotland here, the same thing I did in Australia here, like because all journalists forget that every coach that's successful in the Premier League has to come from somewhere first. And the league is full of like new people who are doing well and have done well. So I hate it, but Spurs, you're fifth. You got 39 points, and shit, we don't. Another team that's done well is West Ham. I like the fact that West Ham is doing well because I know that most of the fans hate their coach, but there's nothing that they could do now. But after they got rid of Declan Rice, like, talk about spending money right. Like, it's like I've seen Brighton. You can't even say Brighton spends money right because they barely spend money. Like, Tottenham has spent money right, and West Ham, best use of $100 million. I didn't expect it. They really re-upped. They got timing of Ward-Prowse and Southampton going down, and the price that Ward-Prowse went for, I couldn't believe it. And then getting Kudus, and I think is Alvarez. Did they get him this year?
It's an Alvarez. Yeah, he's a new one too.
Yeah, and they had Paquetá already. And even though I haven't seen Antonio, I guess he's injured. The way Moyes, who's supposed to be so old-fashioned and not know is a dinosaur in football, the way he reshuffled that team and has people giving him results out of position. He has a new starting forward. He's got Bowen down the middle, Kudus on the right, and I forgot who he's put on the left because Bowen started the season on the left because Antonio was in the middle. So I forgot who's up, and he's got Paquetá in there and Alvarez and solid midfields, Souček and Soufal. So West Ham is 6, 33 points. I'm looking at how I got to refresh this because it says Man United is 7th. Are we? What do you think of West Ham?
Yeah, I think they're solid. I mean, I was talking to two other comics today who are both West Ham fans, and like one of them likes Moyes and one of them doesn't like Moyes. But even the one who doesn't like Moyes, he was like, I can't say shit right now. He's like, we're getting results, but I still don't like him, but I can't say I want him out because we're sixth in the league. So,
which is high. This is what Moyes does. Moyes has been looking for the next Everton for a decade now, and he's found them. And good luck, fans, because football has moved on. But what Moyes does works. If he's got good players. Somebody else could probably make this team further up this table. But so thank God for the rest of the league. Yeah, they're stuck with Moyes.
What I said to that fan was, I said to him, I was like, you could hire someone that plays prettier football, but you could go down that season. Like, that's how the Premier League is. Like, you could, like, clubs have tried to do that before. Like, Palace have tried to do that before, and they've almost got relegated. And they had to get Hodgson back to steady the ship because they needed, they've experimented that. They tried it with De Boer. They tried it with Vieira, and it worked for a little bit, and then it didn't work. Then there's clubs that have done that before. They've tried to get someone in that's going to play more attractive football, and it doesn't work. So at times it can work because Tottenham did that. They got rid of Conte. and his boring style of football, and they got Postecoglou in, and it's worked. So sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't. So be careful what you wish for, West Ham fans. And yeah, I mean, the guy, he delivered them a European trophy, their first trophy in years. And he's got them sixth in the league currently, above teams with way bigger budgets. He's lost the captain from last year, and they don't even look like they miss him. So
they lost their hurricane of their midfield, and they've recovered. They're even more up the table than they were with him. Oh, do me a favor. Ask your friend. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was about to say that it'd be interesting to see how they cope as well with players leaving, because Paquetá's got an injury right now, and Kudus is going to go to the African nations with Ghana. I don't know if they got anyone else that they're going to lose at all, but Kudus has been big for them. He's really settled in now, I think, to the Premier League, and he's up to speed, and he's really a key player for them. So with Antonio injured, because like to come in there, and like if Paquetá's injured and Kudus is out, they've got like Ben Rama who can come in, but I don't think he's as effective. And then it starts putting a lot of weight on Bowen's shoulders.
Maybe that's what I started. I don't know if somebody put in chat or Reddit somewhere the rumor of like, or maybe Duda sent it to me. Like, there's a rumor that West Ham still want McTomminy, and I was like, why? And it was in this January window, so maybe because of those things you're mentioning. So yeah, man, I hope you need him.
Hey, he's your top scorer.
Man, listen, he's also the top reason why we're not sound defensively, and we've let in more goals than he scored. So I'd take that trade. Let them do me a favor. Ask your friend if he would, as a West Ham fan, the one that doesn't like Moyes, if he would take Vincent Kompany as West Ham's manager over Moyes. Ask him what he says. It's a curious question. I want to see what he says.
That'll be an interesting one.
Right. Coming in at 7, amazed because I thought we were 8th. Are we 7th? Am I looking at this right? How did Manchester United after the loss? I thought we went down to 8th. Anyway, that maybe it's because Brighton's playing tomorrow, which is next year for me. So, man, United, you brought us on the high of the Boxing Day win over Aston Villa, a real team that's at the top of the table, in the top 4. They came, they went 2-0 ahead, and you gave us euphoria, and you fought back, and you showed like the Man United of old with the Beckham and the Cantonars, or even without the Cantonars with Scholes and the Giggs, and you fought back and you played the best football you played of all season. Also, there were a lot of people saying that we played shit in the first half of that game. No, we outplayed them the whole game, except just that they got those 2 goals. And especially after the second goal, we balled them. Now, yesterday, I don't know what the fuck happened yesterday, but listen, it was always going to be tough to play an enthused Forest. You know what I mean? Plus, they're playing with 2 of our old young players like Mengi and this Forest has Mengi and Elanga, right? Who's Mengi with? I got to try to remember who Mengi's with.
Mengi's with Luton.
With Luton, yeah. And so Luton has Chung and Mengi. I know one of those teams, then they remind me of each other, has 2. But you had Elanga, and he was going to play to prove to the coach that let him go that you shouldn't have let me go. And Elanga, and I said this before, has more goals and assists than the United forwards this season. But anyway, the point is, this is going to sound like I have an agenda, but I don't have an agenda. You listen, and I realized this when I was talking to Lloyd. We have to. You can't, and I'm not Ten Hag out, but I am Ten Hag out. These are the conditions that I'm Ten Hag out. You bought Anthony, and Anthony is a mistake, a very expensive mistake, and I'll forgive you of that mistake. But I'm not going to forgive you or allow you to make that mistake and also start McTomminy in the midfield. You know what I mean? It's like you can't start Anthony, who gives away the ball, and play McTomminy, who doesn't want the ball, in the same game. You can't do that. You can play Anthony because you got nobody else to play on the right, but you play Hannibal, you play Mount when he gets better, but you definitely don't take Hannibal out no game, which you did in the Forest game, to replace him with first of all, you're playing a guy who's supposed to help you build out the back, who doesn't want it anything to do with playing the ball out the back. Also, you're playing a midfielder who you need to help you score, but plays entire games without any tackles. How are you going to be in a double pivot and have no tackles? You're terrible in transition. Every time a team transitions on us, they come down the middle easily because you run and stand in line with the defenders. And then there's a space for the opposition to take a shot. Like on the first Forest goal, Forest scored on us the same way that Bournemouth scored on us. Like he gets pulled out of position, like he's dropping like he's a central defender. And then the space appears at the top of the penalty box, and people get free shots. Like pick somebody up, pick up the dribbler. Like today or yesterday, he should have picked up the dribbler. Like you can't mark a space. We already have a guy who marks space, and he's injured right now. You didn't send you in there to do that job. So listen, man, you just can't play McTomminy. Like McTomminy, you put him at the end of the game when we need a goal. That's when you play McTomminy, you know? And that's and to prove my point, like every manager that United has had that has relied on McTomminy to be a starter has been fired. Every one of them, from Mourinho, who started playing him, was fired. Solskjaer dropped Pogba for McTomminy and Fred and got fired. Ragnick used him and got fired. You're already on the verge of being fired and you use him. So stop using them. Trust the fan base when they say don't use them. Use them for what made you want to use them. Like when we need the win at the end of a game and you need that extra person that the defense can't pick up, use them for that. But we have let in way too many goals. We don't have our defenders. We don't have our defenders. We don't have Martinez. We don't have Shaw, who are pivotal defenders and that can help you build out the back. So you don't want to use a midfielder who ain't going to help you build out the back. And that causes us to lose the ball, and that is terrible in transition, and that can't help us defend. We don't have our best defenders, so you don't need to put in our worst defensive midfielder in the midfield. So listen, man, that I would have easily walked away from that game with a draw and accepted it. As far as they wild out there, that crowd just be into it. They be singing and cheering. And I know a lot of United fans are angry, but I want to give props to the shot that Bruno Fernandes took, that the goalkeeper save. I want to give props to the Dalot hitting the post. I want to give props to Eriksen's shot. Like we did try some things, you know what I mean? And we just didn't get the win. But we lost. You made the substitution that caused us to lose this game, and that was McTomminy for Mainu. Mainu was not injured. And you took him out. And I'd rather have Mainu have a mediocre game because he'll make important defensive decisions that'll save us goals. And it's easier to win when there's not the ball. We don't have to take the ball at the back of the net. But that's United. Like we are who we are because of injuries, because we're not getting any goals, and because this midfield is completely unsettled. And so Ten Hag, like, figure it out, bro. What do you think about United?
I mean, I can't figure you guys out. And I don't think anyone, like, it's so up and down, which is so bad as a fan when you have to deal with that roller coaster of emotions just from being like, oh, we figured it out, oh, we haven't. And I think, you know, we've spoken about it so many times, but the injuries really do play such a big part, because I think when your whole squad is fit, like that's a squad that can challenge for top four. And that's where you should be as a club right now. Like, I think competing for the title is maybe a little bit beyond. If you had all your players fit, I still think it would be a little bit beyond them, but top four absolutely wouldn't be. And yeah, I mean, that's something you need to fix. I don't know if it's, you know, if certain people are injury prone, then they need to go, or if the, you know, the way things are being done on the training ground need to be tweaked. But yeah, because I think there's only maybe, when all your players are fit, I think there's probably only a couple of areas of the team that you need to upgrade.
Right.
Like we've spoken about before, like a world-class CDM is a pretty pressing need. And then either a forward or winger that's going to weigh in with goals, because Anthony, you know, he's not going to do that. Rashford, when he's at his best, can do that, but you still need someone else as well. Like, it'll be interesting to see how Højlund develops. But I feel like, you know, this is the summer. I don't think it'll happen in January, but this is the summer when Martial needs a new start somewhere. Because I think there's a good player in there, but I just don't think it's going to happen at United now. Like, I think he's been there too long. And I think he, you know, will flourish somewhere else. And it'll give you an opportunity to go out and maybe, you know, get a more proven forward that's going to stay fit and score goals and have, you know, someone that will compete in the team with Højlund for that starting spot. Because right now it's just whichever one of them's fit is the one who plays, and they never seem to be fit at the same time. You know, Højlund, it was unfortunate after, you know, that big moment for him against Villa where he finally scored that first Premier League goal, and then he's sick for the Forest game. Right. You know, I felt for him, because I think that would have been a perfect game for him to maybe continue that run and build on what he did. But yeah, I mean, just one thing from that game as well, though, was just how well all the goals were taken as well on both teams, because like the two Forest goals are both like opened themselves up, like first time finishes. And Rashford finished his one really well as well. So yeah, it was a game of good goals. But yeah, I mean,
their winner came from a goal that we could have scored. Like Bruno Fernandes either skipped that or miskicked it, and then Gibbs picked it up, took it down the pitch, and McTomminy didn't go to him because everybody was matched up. McTomminy backed off with the defense. He playing like a central defender, and then the ball goes down the wing. He joins the play on the wing. Gibbs is in the middle, open. And then those are the same goals, type of goals that Bournemouth scored on us in transition. It's like he's not picking someone. He's not like, well, how do I handle this dangerous person? You know, like, you know, as in martial arts class, it's like, this is how you handle somebody with a knife. This is how you handle somebody with a gun. This guy act like he never been in a soccer class before. And I don't have an agenda against him. It's just like, listen, this is a good player somewhere else. This is a good player somewhere else in his position.
Yeah, and I think last season that was masked a bit because you had Casemiro in there being a world-class holding mid.
It wasn't masked. This is my point. He didn't play him last year. He played him early last year, right? And we lost some games. So we got Casemiro at the Liverpool game. And this is to prove to everybody that, or just to myself, that I ain't just hating on this guy. So we got him at the Liverpool game, right? And we won that game. But Casemiro didn't play that game. McTomminy played that game, but he was definitely instructed to be defensive. You know, so he played good. And even when we started using Casemiro at first, I was like, damn, that's too bad for McTomminy because he was doing good as a CDM, but that was his job. But now Eric Ten Hag wants him to play offensive, and he's being so offensive. And Casemiro was doing the same thing this season too. Like, we only want a one-man pivot, but we can't we don't have our defense guys. Like Varane is not always healthy, and Martinez is not always healthy. So we don't play the high line to keep people pressed in. So once we lose the ball, it's easy for a team to transition on us, and especially when one of the midfielders is like or is in the penalty box and the ball is past them, like they just transition on us fast. So I feel like you got to make the CDMs or both central midfielders stay home. You got to play a double pivot. You just have to, because you can't play a high line. You can't keep them pressed in their box. There's so much space. They play through us. Our defensive line, it cheats. They, Johnny Evans ain't trying to get in a foot race with anybody, even though he's surprisingly fast. Like I've seen him catch people. So yeah, I feel like we could definitely have more wins than we got. I also want to give Undagi a shout out because of the way he saved more goals than the Spurs goalkeeper today. Like him running back and shutting down Solanke Solanke had like 3 breakaways. And Undagi played forward today, wing back and midfielder and central defender today. Like he was all over the place. So the great game by him this weekend to close out the year for Spurs. So unsung and Undagi. Newcastle. What you think about Newcastle? Not their women, the team.
I mean, I think it's they're another team who's been sort of ravaged by their injuries.
I'm sorry, I skipped Brighton. Tell me what you think about Brighton. They're 8th.
I mean, the way De Zerbi plays football it's great to watch, but it's inconsistent because it does leave them really open sometimes. And I think it's amazing because if you look at their squad on paper, there's a whole bunch of young players there who are not that experienced, but they've got potential. And there's a couple of older heads in there, like Welbeck and Milner, who've sort of been there and seen it and done it before. And I think that's what you get because I think the team is more skewed towards the younger players. And that's what happens when you have them in there is that they'll be amazing some games. Like, Ferguson, he still doesn't play him every game, but Ferguson is frightening when he's on it. But he's not always on it. Hinshelwood, the new kid they've got that's come through, he's exciting. Adingra as well, Baleba. These guys all, I think they've all got huge ceilings, but at the moment, with the stage they're at in their development, they're not going to be doing it every single week. And also, you're asking them to play a very high risk, sort of high level of skill style of football. But to be able to do that and still be where they are in the league, I think is great. They're not in any danger of getting dragged down or anything. They're pushing for European spaces still. So I think they're in a really good position because obviously losing McAllister and Caicedo that's the heart of their midfield that's just been ripped out. And they've been smart the way they've replaced it. Dahoud came in as well from Dortmund with a little bit of experience. Milner came in, but then like Baleba is they brought him in just as a player with huge potential. So yeah, they're just doing the Brighton thing. They're polishing these rough diamonds, and they got a few old heads in there just keeping things steady. So I really enjoy watching them, and I think they're about where they'll finish. I think for the end of the season. I don't think they'll go up or down by more than 1 or 2 places in either direction, to be honest. But yeah, I think that's a successful season for them, given that they changed manager last season, halfway through the season, and then they lost key players. So I think they're where they should be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're where they should be. And when I watch Brighton, it's like watching a farm play. You know what I mean? Like I'm watching a farmer grow some crop that they're going to sell. Like I watched them grow their team last year and sell 2 players who are the main players from the infrastructure. Like their 2 main crops are Caicedo and McAllister. And now we're watching them grow those names that you just mentioned. And they got the old heads that they're not going to sell, that have that experience that Chelsea young players need. You know what I mean? And, Brighton is just going to, I don't know if Brighton's ever going to win anything. And, as a farmer, De Zerbi is going to get sold at some point. Like some team is going to take him too. So everything is on display. It's a vibrate. What do they call them? A friend of mine built a vibrarium or something and put frogs and shit in there, and you just watch them grow and get bigger and eat and shit like that. I'm just watching a vibrarium of players just grow and play, and then as soon as they do good, like people are going to want to buy these players, and Brighton's going to sell them because they're coming out of the red, but that owner put a lot of money into that team, and this is a business for him, So they're fun and they're where they are. I thought they would be a little bit higher in the table. I was more worried about them at the beginning of the season, but now I'm seeing like the effects of selling Caicedo and McAllister. And then I also feel like they'll sell other people, so they'll never really go anywhere. And, we'll see how long they can keep doing this. There was a team that's not in the Premier League now that did this, what they're doing. And their colors are red and white. I don't want to say their name. But yeah, we'll see. And what you think about Newcastle? They're ninth, 29 points.
Yeah, I mean, given what they achieved last season, it's an underperformance. Given the level of funding that they've got, it's an underperformance. I think they didn't go out and spend that much because obviously financial fair play rules are being watched. So I think they've got a good squad. They've suffered with injuries as well. I think, and also like they've got the additional demands of that they've been playing Champions League football this season as well. Obviously, I think they were unfortunate in those games, like they got done dirty in the PSG game a little bit, and they could have quite easily qualified from that group, which was a really tough group with Dortmund and AC Milan in there as well. So I think just the extra workload sort of hit them a bit. Tonali getting banned for the betting scandal wasn't good for them either. But then they've had injuries to key players. Having Isak and Wilson is almost like having one forward because they're both injured all the time. So they need to hope that they can keep at least one of them fit. But when their whole team is fit, they're fearsome. But they just haven't been there this season. And some of their defenders have started making mistakes. Like Burn has started to look a little bit sluggish. He's had injuries as well. But Trippier's been terrible recently as well. He's not been quite at his levels. So
those two players play like the prostitute rumors are true. Like, like if I didn't see, once I saw, like I've been watching them, and then they've been making mistakes lately. Like Burn really got killed. I forgot what the game he got murdered, like slaughtered down that by an ex-player, by Wood, not even somebody who was young.
The Forest game.
Like Wood killed him. Like Wood is on his last. This is his last year in the Premiership, and he's beating Burn like he's 19-year-old new kid that just came on the field. And then the mistakes Trippier be making is like, yo, man, this prostitute thing has some legs because these dudes don't got no legs.
Who knows?
But I'm sorry. Yeah, who knows? Allegedly.
But yeah, I think just the injuries have hit them hard, and other things as well, like we say the Tonali thing. So like I say, once their whole team is fit, I think they're a challenging for top four thing. They're a challenging for top four team. It's just a thing though. Like if teams could keep their players fit, I think the league would be crazy. I mean, it's already a crazy league anyway this season, but like if Newcastle had their whole team fit all the time, if United had their whole team fit all the time, I think the race for the top four would be nuts. Whereas right now, I think Spurs are looking like the only ones that will try and break into it, and Villa are sitting in there, loving life. Whereas I think there could be almost a 6 or 7 way battle for the top four, if those things weren't weren't happening, because I think the likes of West Ham and Brighton will slip down a little bit, maybe, if you know that or they won't move up in challenge for the top four. So yeah, I mean, Newcastle, I think it's disappointing. It's a hard one as well for Eddie Howe, because it's just putting pressure on him now. He set the bar. He almost didn't want to qualify for Champions League last season,
Right.
because it set the bar high, and it's a bar that's hard to achieve immediately again. You know, if he'd have just got them Europa League, and it could be like, okay, you know, that's more than we'd had previously. Let's build from there, kind of thing. But he went, you know, rocket ship straight to the moon with Champions League qualification. You know, beyond Newcastle fans' wildest dreams, because they hadn't really invested that much into the team at that point. You know, they'd brought in Trippier, you know, they brought in Isak, and they hadn't really done. There was still a lot of players. There still is a lot of players there that were.
They got Guimaraes.
Yeah.
They didn't spend as much. You're right. They didn't spend as much as they could have, but they did spend a little something. But
yeah, Botman, I think, as well, was a bit pricey, and obviously they took Pope off Burnley when they went down, but yeah, I mean, it's not a team of real superstars. It's just good players, but yeah, they've suffered with those injuries. But I mean, like I say, a lot of teams have. I don't know if the World Cup has any effect on that as well, because it really made the sort of schedule weird last season, and players having to do extra. And then I just don't think it helps having all these pre-season. But I think it's good that teams get to go around the globe and play in front of fans who wouldn't otherwise see their team in that country. But it's just so much load on the players, and there is a tipping point. You know, the games are really physically demanding, and it's such a different sport. You know, I've seen some of the science behind it, and players are being overloaded with the demands that are on them. And I think it's you know, when teams are going all around the world, and even sometimes in some of the breaks, teams will travel as well, and it's just it's a commercial thing over the interests of the players. But then the players are being paid more money than they've ever been, so it's a double-edged sword, really.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Newcastle, they're not where I thought they would be. Thank God. That means United would be even further down the table. So, like you said, Eddie Howe had to go show off and qualify for Champions League. And if he doesn't do it again, that's going to be looked at like he's slipping. And we invested too much money in this team for us to be slipping. So that, you know, once the story started coming out about, you know, Newcastle looking to upgrade on him, and we already knew, you know, that he was supposed to be like a stopgap coach, but he proved that he's better than a stopgap coach. But yeah, man, this is a business. So Eddie Howe, even though Newcastle is 9th, which is further than anybody would have expected last year, but it's not this year. You know, people expect more. So good luck. Chelsea, speaking of under-delivering, like the only thing that I don't understand less than Man United is Chelsea. And I do understand it, but I don't understand it. You're talking about the up and down, but they have different issues. Like, I would never, it's rare when Chelsea plays bad, you know? It's rare when they play bad, and their games are exciting. You see that they have a style of play. We just know that they're young, and there's these things that you need through gaining experience that will help you win the games that they're not winning right now. And they got a bunch of young people in everywhere. They got injuries. They ain't got no forward. They have one of the oldest defenders in the league. And if he gets injured, that's another set of problems. All the other defenders are mad young, and it's the coach's first year. So I get it. But when you see them create so many opportunities, like they have the second highest XG in the league. That's what they were saying this weekend. I thought it was the highest, but it's the second highest. So I feel like I wouldn't fire a coach that creates that much XG. These are quality chances. And Cole Palmer this weekend just going off. And I know it was Luton. And Luton had a chance to like really tie that game at the end of the game because they had a higher XG than Chelsea. Like their chances were better. They put that Chelsea under pressure. Chelsea was actually lucky to actually win this game this weekend. But 2 wins in a row will keep the media wolves off Pochettino. And Chelsea fans just gotta just ride this out. Ride this out. I wouldn't panic. I wouldn't fire anybody. Yes, they're not where Chelsea fans want them to be, but just enjoy this. This is a true transition phase, and it ain't the coach's fault. What do you
I
think
pretty
about
much agree.
Chelsea?
Pretty much agree with all of that. It's they've been nice to watch, but they've just been inconsistent in terms of seeing those results out and getting those wins and being clinical. And I think that will come. So yeah, I think they deserve a little bit of patience in Pochettino. But that's what happens when you have £1 billion team. There are going to be certain expectations in there. And they just need to hope that those players hit their ceilings because they've spent so much money, but so much of it has been on potential rather than being proven world-class quality.
Right.
But some of them are starting to show those flashes. Like we say, Cole Palmer's he's stepping up and he's being a match winner for them. That's what they need from more of those players as well. They need the likes of Enzo Fernandez stepping up and doing that. And Jackson stepping up and doing that. Even Sterling, like he hasn't been quite as effective, I think, as he would have liked so far this season. He's shown it in some games where he's really looked good, and then he's sort of gone a little bit anonymous again in some of the other games. So yeah, he needs to step up. And like Madueke's been looking better the last few games as well. He started chipping in with some goals. So like if all those players start peaking around the right time, like Chelsea are basically doing a Brighton right now, but without the fear that those players will then have to be sold.
Right.
Like they'll be hoping that those players can all reach that level, and then they'll just be a brilliant team. So they're kind of doing it just without the need to sell them if they do get good. If they get good, they just got a good team.
Chelsea likes spending money, so much money that when their players eventually get good, they might buy them from themselves again. You know what I mean? Who's that new guy? No, that's ours. Let's buy him. But you own him. But he's good now. Let's buy him now. But that's the good thing about Chelsea. They already own these players. And if they get to the level, like you say, of where they expect them to be, they won't have to buy them. Like Brighton is going to have to sell their good players, but Chelsea is going to get to keep their good players. And like even like Nate Jackson, he had a great assist today to Cole Palmer. So it wasn't just Cole Palmer out there. The game before, I think Nate Jackson had a good game. He had some great hold-up plays, showed some strength, shoved the guy off the ball that was on his back, and he passed to Nkunku. But I think Nkunku or whoever he passed to was offside a little bit, but it was a lovely weighted pass. So I feel like it's going to start to come together over there, and Chelsea fans just need to stop being spoiled and be patient. Stop being football fans for a second. Wolves. I love Gary O'Neill. I love Chang Wang. Is it Lee Wang Chang? Chang Wang Lee?
He Chan.
Say again? Say again? He Chan.
Huang He Chan.
Huang He Chan. That's all I gotta say, man. Like, I saw something in this guy a year ago when he came in the league, but he was with Wolves and he was still had Jimenez then, and Jimenez had got them to a certain point. Plus, they spent all that money on that kid from Portugal, so it's like they rotated them a lot. But since Wolves like sold Jimenez to Fulham, and they got Gary O'Neill in. Gary O'Neill has committed to He Wang, and He Wang, man, that he was dominant this weekend, and he's been dominant. He's like one of the highest goal scorers in the league, And what a player, man. And you know, I don't know where Gary O'Neill was in the league last year with Bournemouth, but I don't think it was 11 at this point of the season. You know, and this is great for him and good for Wolves, who are kind of like in a purgatory rebuilding stage, kind of, you know? Like, this ain't the Wolves that Nuno brought up. Like, a lot of the names have changed. And so this is a new Wolves, new coach. I'm happy for Gary O'Neill. I hope it continues. I just hope they lose to Man United when they play us. But I like this. I like 11th for Wolves. I'm a fan of this 11th for Wolves.
Yeah, I mean, huge credit to the job Gary O'Neill's done, because when like Lopetegui walked out, saying that like, you know, the team was too hindered by the fact that they had to sell players to comply with financial fair play, and they couldn't really get you know, big money replacements in or anything. You know, I feared the worst for them. And you know, Gary O'Neill at Bournemouth, like, he did a solid job at Bournemouth, but he didn't really progress Bournemouth at all. So I was thinking, you know, him coming into a team that hasn't been able to really buy many players, if anyone's going to get, you know, drawn into that relegation battle with the 3 promoted teams, it could be Wolves. That they could really struggle. And you know, he's proven me completely wrong, because I think they've been one of the most improved teams in the league this year. You know, and he's done it with good coaching rather than building a team from transfers or anything. He's done it by just getting the best out of what was there, and that's, you know, that's the mark of a real good coach, and massive respect to him for that. And you know, it'd be interesting to see how they deal with Hee-chan going off to the Asia Cup as well. He's in that South Korea team with Son, but they've got like exciting players. Like Neto came in today,
and he hasn't played most of the season, and he's lethal. So then Neto coming back will replace,
yeah, exactly. That he'll come in, and one player who I think has not got quite enough credit for them, who's really good, is the player who came in, the Spanish guy, came in from PSG, Sarabia.
I like him.
I'm surprised he was picked up by a club like Wolves and not by a bigger club, because he creates so much. He makes so much stuff happen. He runs at players. He's a good crosser of the ball. He's a good passer. And you know, he's come up with goals now and again. But yeah, I mean, just a good team. And I think Jose Sa is one of the most underrated keepers in the league as well. He's really solid. Yeah, just, you know, he's getting a lot out of, you know, a group of players that, you know, looking at the start of the season on paper, you might have gone, okay, they're not going to do much, but to be where they are, I think it's massive. If they finish comfortably mid-table, that's a really, you know, big job that he's done there.
Yeah, because they had to hire Lopetegui to save them from relegation last year. And the funny thing is, Wolves is playing the type of football now that they fired Gary O'Neill. Bournemouth fired Gary O'Neill because they thought he couldn't play that type of football. And he's playing it with the team that's right above them. You know what I mean? He's playing the football. Like Bournemouth, their new coach who replaced Gary O'Neill, they're doing good. But it's like you could have just kept Gary O'Neill, because you're both playing the same type of quality football. You know, you both look good. You know what I mean? You both look dangerous. Like Wolves almost beat United at the beginning of the season. We just got so lucky, you know. But yeah, kudos to Gary O'Neill. And you know, like, you normally need 40 points to stay in the Premier League, right? It's halfway through and they have 28. Unless somebody assassinates the whole team, there's no way they're in danger. So already half the season through, like, these are comfort points you're gaining, lack of pressure points. You know, it's like you could just play the season without pressure. Bournemouth is 12th. Again, the coach that replaced Gary O'Neill, he's finally starting to, you know, let his way of play like marinate in the team. And Bournemouth has beat United, and they've been playing good. They lost this weekend, right? Who did they just lose to? To
Spurs.
Spurs. Yeah, Spurs really taught them a lesson. But, still, they've been on a good run. They were one of the most informed teams. And Spurs took them down today. But they should be proud of the way they ended this season. What do you think about Bournemouth?
Yeah, just the new coach, Iriola. He did a really good job in Spain with Rayo Vallecano. And I was excited to see what he could do coming into the Premier League. But I think he took like a bit of an adaptation period for him and for his players to learn his style of football, and for him to sort of maybe make the tweaks and adjustments that he needed to make coming into the Premier League, because it is different to La Liga. But they're starting to reap the benefits of it now, and they've got an exciting, talented team. Solanke has grown into the Premier League finally. I think this is the first season where he really looks like a Premier League striker that's going to score those goals, and the amount he has scored, I think, is it's fantastic for him. And there's other players there that I really like watching. Katara, Tavernier as well. Really good player. Billing, really effective.
I love Billings. Yeah.
They've got a young guy called Alex Scott who's got chipped in with a couple of assists and stuff recently, just running at people and
yeah. I saw that run for that assist. I think that was Boxing Day or the day after Boxing Day.
Yeah, just an exciting team and a fun team to watch. And they were hovering around just above the relegation zone a few weeks ago, and then they've sort of gone on a little run that's taken them up into mid-table now. And I think they should have the ability to stay there based on what I'm seeing now. They're actually looking like it's coming together with the manager's style of play.
Then 13th is Fulham. I'm glad I'm not a Fulham fan, because there's the emotional roller coaster. You win 2 games 5-0, and then you lose. You get your ass beat a bunch of games after that, and then you just beat Arsenal. The number 2 to 3 team in the league, like on the last day of the season. So, but again, Jimenez is back, and I think a part of why they lost him. Jimenez got thrown out of one game, then he wasn't available, I guess, the next game after that. So now he's back. He scored this, but yeah, Fulham is 13th. I expected them to be higher, a little bit, but there's players on Fulham that used to play for United, like Pereira, and Pereira is doing great for Fulham. And I swear, this is the level of team that I think Scott McTomminy would be really appreciated on. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm just talking football facts. Like, he's just not good enough for the team at the level of Manchester, unless he proves me wrong. And but he's just not consistent. Like, he's gonna have those games when you think that makes you believe like he belongs on that level, but he ain't gonna do that for like season after season. And that's why Pereira's having fun. He's respected and he's loved here at Fulham. So
I feel like Fulham is like a rehab center for players that have been just deemed not good enough at other clubs. Like, like Willian was like booted out of Arsenal because they're like, you're not good enough. You're not good enough anymore. Iwobi, it's like, you're not good enough anymore. Jimenez. Even like the goalkeeper, like Bernd Leno, was at Arsenal, and they're like, "Nah, you're not good enough anymore." And Pereira,
and look what they did to Arsenal today. That was personal. What they did to Arsenal today.
And Marco Silva's really good, really underrated manager as well. He's done a good job there, and I think the fact that they are where they are in the league isn't necessarily a poor reflection on them, but I think that sort of chunk of mid-table teams is ultra competitive. And there's not really that many points in there. Like, if you win a couple of games, you can jump right up into the top half of the table. But then if you lose a couple, you slip down to sort of, the realms of like 12th, 13th, 14th kind of thing. Then I think there's a real gap in quality between Fulham and then the teams below them at the moment. Apart from maybe Everton, because obviously they're in a false position with that point deduction.
Right. Yeah. And like, speaking of teams like Fulham, like Crystal Palace, they're probably not on Fulham's level, but they do have a lot of potential. And like you said, it's not a lot of points in there. And sometimes it's like if you're at the top of the table, there's some games you're definitely going to win, and there's some games you might lose, but there's more games you might drop points when you're in Crystal Palace, Fulham, Bournemouth, Nottingham. When you're in that area, it's like you have more games where you could lose points than when you could gain points. But then there are times when you're like, it's do or die. They're going to fire the coach, when that will motivate the players to play for you. Like today, Crystal Palace, where Hudson's head, is getting, the back of his neck is getting shaved for him to put it on the chopping block. And the players really showed up today, and everybody balled out. Olise balled out. Eze got his goal. Ayew didn't dive as much as he normally did and actually played today. Yeah, they can do some things. They're going to be inconsistent, but they should not be in the relegation zone.
Yeah,
they're not that far from it, but they ain't in it. They're a decent distance.
I think it helps them having some players back as well, because Olise was out for quite a while, and then he's only come. Too. Yeah, they've only come back the last few games, and they're match-winning players. Olise got 2 against. Did he get 2 against Brentford? Yeah, he got 2 against Brentford, and Eze got the other. And yeah, just they did well against Chelsea the other day as well. When they came back, and Chelsea got the win eventually, but they looked okay there, and they did well against City as well in that when they pinched that 2-2 draw. So yeah, there's good players in there. Hodgson's under a little bit of pressure, and I think the win relieves that, because they'd been on a little bit of a run where they weren't quite getting the results. So yeah, having those players back will be big for them. They should be able to go on enough of a run now to keep them out of there. There's one team I'm worried about at the moment, but we'll come to them.
All right. Forest, they're 15th. They got 20 points. They got Nuno's a new coach. I don't understand exactly why they fired Steve Cooper. Like, I feel like they probably have the same amount of points. Like, they beat United, and they beat somebody before United, Newcastle, which is, those are 2 above their level wins. Like that's like, and so they did it. So just the quality of those wins will buy Nuno a lot of grace. The United one was at home, where the Forest fans go crazy, but I think it's I don't know. Like, I feel like they could still not do well and get closer to relegation, as the season goes on. But for now, they're 15th, which is, let's just say, the appointment looks like it's working now. And that's all I can say. And it's yet to be seen if it's going to work further, because Nuno is more defensive. And even Nuno with Spurs started out good before it went bad. You know what I mean? And then he lost his job in Saudi Arabia, and he had world-class players there, even though so let's see how much Nuno has learned. What'd you say?
He did win the league with those world-class players in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, he won the league in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, he won the champion. Yeah, he was a title winner, but then they started a bit slowly this season, and they binned him.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yeah, he's. I think he got a little bit harshly done by out there. I think the expectation levels are crazy out there. But yeah, he was at Al Ittihad, who there they won the league. But he did have, like, Benzema and Fabinho and people. But yeah, I think he could have almost had 3 wins, because the first game they had was the game against Bournemouth, where they got done dirty by the red card that wasn't a red card for Bali, I think it was, where it was one of the most non-red card tackles I've ever, like we said at the time, it wasn't even a foul.
It wasn't even a foul, yeah.
And then they lost that game 3-2 when they, I think they were in a winning position maybe when that happened, or at least drawing. When that red card happened. So yeah, that was his first game, and they could be 3 wins if that hadn't happened. So Yeah, I rate Nuno. I think he's a good coach. He did a good job multiple seasons at Wolves before it went sour. So, and I saw his team. I saw him once live, one of his teams live in Spain. I went out there to watch a couple of games in Madrid. I watched the Real Madrid game against Almeria. Then I watched Valencia versus Rayo Vallecano at Vallecano, which is like a little suburb, Vallecas, a little suburb of Madrid. And Nuno was the Valencia manager at the time, and his team were good there as well. He had a solid team together. So yeah, he knows what he's doing. I think they'll be just about okay. I don't think it'll be a spectacular rise up the table. The 2 wins in a row, I don't think Forest fans should get too used to that. I think it's going to be a little bit bumpy, but I think he'll do just about enough. I think under Cooper, it had just gone a bit stale, and sometimes you just need a change of voice, a change of ideas. He'd done an amazing job in getting them up when no one expected them to get promoted. And I feel like for him, it probably wasn't, a great feeling leaving them and getting fired when he did. But I actually think it's a good thing for him and his personal reputation for it to happen, rather than get a relegation on his CV, because he's being linked with like other Premier League clubs already. He's been linked with like the Palace job if Hodgson goes. I think his reputation is intact enough that he'll get another decent job if one becomes available.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. Number 16th is Brentford. What am I saying? I got 19 points. Brentford is playing like they lost their leading goal scorer. You know what I mean? And because they did. But it's Christmas time for real, because they get to get their leading goal scorer back in January. So at the beginning of the season, before the season started, I was like, yeah, they're going to feel this, not having Ivan Toney. But then when the season started, Wissa and Mbuemo were scoring. I said, maybe they're not going to feel this Ivan Toney loss as much as possible. But as the season goes on, they are feeling it. So then now he's going to be back. So I expect them to go up from 16. But I believe in them less now than I did last year and at the beginning of the season. How you feel about them?
I mean, they're the team I'm worried about at the moment. Yeah. They've lost 5 in a row. And one of the things about Brentford is that they used to be so like defensively solid. They were strong on set pieces. They weren't always like the most free-flowing team going forward, but they were always solid. Like they always had, a sort of a good structure about them. And they seem to have lost that recently. And they're another club who don't get that much wrong in the transfer market. They're good at finding, these rough gems, similar to how Brighton were. But I mean, the decision when Toney got suspended, the decision to go and buy Neil Maupay back, like he had already played for Brentford before. Then he went to Brighton and then to Everton.
You nailed it. Oh, that's what the problem is.
Yeah, like
I think you nailed it. Yeah.
If you lose a guy that's scoring for you like every other game, like Toney was, and then you go, who should we get to replace him? Let's get notoriously prolific goal scorer Neil Maupay. He'll get us at least 2 goals in Toney's absence. Like, no wonder you are where you are. That's what happens when you don't, like they've been lucky that like Mbumo and Wissa like stepped up a little bit and put in some good performances, but they're not the sort of players that will do it consistently like they did at the start of the season. Then they both kind of tailed off a little bit. Like they can both pop up now and again with goals, but yeah, like they didn't look like they missed Toney at the start of the season, but they really have these last few games. But they also need to figure out whatever's going wrong at the back as well, because they've been leaking some goals. Like Wolves put 4 past them. It's not been a good run. Let me have a look at the run that they're on.
You think the players are like, we're waiting for Toney to get back, and when Toney gets back, you think psychologically or subconsciously they could be on that, like when he gets back, then we'll all step it up. But we're missing a player. Like even Man City might be doing that with Haaland, to a certain extent, or with waiting for De Bruyne. You ever heard waiting for Government, waiting for De Bruyne, waiting for Tony, waiting for Haaland, So we'll see though.
Yeah, it'd be interesting for them. But yeah, I do feel like at the moment, out of all the teams, they're the ones looking like they might get sucked in to that battle.
Yeah, it's not great. I expect more from them. Everton is 17th. It's a fake 17th. They got 16 points, but they had 10 points taken away from them. I actually heard on a broadcast that this is 1 point or one place above where they were last year when they had no points deducted. So regardless, they're still ahead after the 10-point deduction. And, Dice, the first game after deduction, they lost to United. Garnacho scored a wonder goal, but after that, they went on a 4-game run where they won 4. But now I think they've lost like 3. And, like we were talking about mid-table teams, that's not a lot of give, man. You're going to, you can get beat out there because it's tough in the middle. And then you still got to face teams at the top, and they've lost to teams at the top, and I think some teams in the middle. So I want them to survive. I don't know if a team in the Premier League or in top level football in England has ever been deducted 10 points and survived, or even ever been deducted 10 points, period, or points, period. So
I know all about points deductions.
Oh yeah, what happened?
Yeah, we got deducted points when we went down to League One. I can't remember exactly how many it was the first season. It was a lot though.
Oh shit.
Southampton points deduction. Yeah, 10 points was what we got.
Yeah. What did you all do? What did you all get the ankle bracelet for?
Going into administration.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we got it imposed on us in the championship. It relegated us, but then we started with a points deduction in League One. I can't remember how much that one was, points deduction. I think Derby had a big one as well.
Right.
Leeds had a 15-point deduction for failing to exit administration properly as well at some point. But yeah, it's really rare that it's ever happened in the Premier League. I think that was when Leeds were down in the lower leagues as well. So yeah, it's for it to happen in the Premier League is strange. But they're coping. I mean, they did get battered by Wolves, but they're coping. I think they'll be fine.
Hopefully. And then I just saw a post from Dele Alli. He had a mishap in his rehabilitation from his injury, but they still have a class player to come back and help them out. And whenever that happens, hopefully it happens soon. And Luton, yeah, I just want to say, their captain sounds, they read something on the post pregame show about their captain, like he wrote a post. So he's feeling better. He thanked everybody who saved his life on the field. He said CPR is real. Everybody should learn it. So I'm glad that he's feeling better. We don't know if he'll ever play again, but he's alive and he's with his family for the holiday. So good for them. And Luton, I don't know, man. This is always going to be a struggle when you're a team that just comes into the Premier League from the Championship and you didn't spend a ton of money. They played good today. Luton played Chelsea, right? Was that Luton and Chelsea today?
I think it was the day before, but yeah, they the day before. Well.
Yeah, they did. Like they once they made those substitutions, they made 2 substitutions, and one of them was Chong, United player. He got the ball out to get crossed in, and also went out and crossed some balls in. They hit the post. They came close, so good for them to come at Chelsea like that. But this is going to be tough to escape the deportation that you're in right now. And so I'm not surprised you're 18th. What do you feel?
I've been impressed with them recently because I thought they were going to be potentially the worst of the three teams that came up. They got the smallest budget, the smallest stadium, um, and the sort of probably the before they signed certain players, they probably had the least experienced team in terms of Premier League minutes. But they did well. They were smart in getting a couple of guys in that had that experience, like Barkley and Townsend. And yeah, they've become a tough team to beat recently. Like if you are going to beat Luton, you're going to have to have earned it recently. Like they're running teams close. Like they ran Chelsea close with that little comeback. They beat Newcastle at home the other day as well. So I think especially at their own ground, they're a team who can cause problems. And yeah, the fact they've got 15 points already is pretty good going for them. It's more than I thought they would have at this stage.
Right.
So yeah, credit to them. I still think they'll go down. Sadly for them, I'd love it if they could stay up because I think it's been great having them in the league. But yeah, they beat Sheffield United the other day 3-2, which was a real crazy game. That one on Boxing Day because it sort of swung back and forth. That score line and yeah, their games aren't boring at the moment, that's for sure. And City could only beat them 2-1. Arsenal could only beat them 4-3. So they're working teams. Even if they're not winning, they're working teams. They're not giving anyone anything for free.
It sound like they need to learn how to defend. That's what they sound like they need to do.
It's fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to watch. I like the idea of a team with a grounds like that is in the Premier League. So I want them to stay in, but who would have to come out for them to stay in are other teams that I like too, that I do want to stay up. So we'll see what happens to them, but just keep on the good fight, Luton, man. This is a great story. And if this ground stays in the Premier League for a bunch of seasons, that would be goddamn amazing. Burnley is 19th. That's Vincent Kompany's team. They won the championship. They're playing his style of play. I feel like they've been playing better lately too. They only have 11 points, and he refuses to compromise and adopt a more defensive, fast break style of play and counter teams. So he's playing football, with a bunch of young players like his way, and they're 19th, and that's where people expected him to be. But is the 11 points that bad compared to other teams that have gone down in other seasons at this point?
Sort of. I mean, like I say, Southampton got relegated last year with 25 points. I think we had. So they're on track to finish at a similar rate to we did. Whereas Luton are potentially on track to finish a little bit more than we did. But yeah, I mean, I think it's been bad. I think they've been unlucky in certain games where they've had bad decisions go against them, or they've looked close to snatching a draw and then they've conceded. So yeah, I think they just don't have enough quality in that team to stay up. But they're fighting. They're trying. Like they fought really well against Villa, and especially to equalise with 10 men at Villa Park. That's no hard going. And then there's no easy going. Sorry. And then that penalty happened, which was just unfortunate because it's one of those ones where the player who won the penalty smart. They see that the defender's about to clear the ball. They manage to get themselves in there in front and then just take the hit from the player who's not trying to kick them, but just trying to clear the ball. And then, yeah, I always feel bad on those ones, but yeah, they were a little bit hard done by to not come away from Villa Park with anything.
Yeah, but they also got away with a penalty that should have been called on them. Oh, no, that was Sheffield. That was Sheffield at Villa. My bad. Let's go to Sheffield at 20th. Listen, I like Chris Wilder, but I don't think he's going to save this team. You know what I'm saying? Like, he'll just make them not lose as bad every week as they would have. I think he got the one manager bounce win out of him since he's back. And then he got a point at Villa. Did he win a game since he's been there, or is just the
I think
draw?
they beat Brentford, and that was it.
Yeah, I feel like so. But you got 9 points. Half the season's gone. Bro, I don't know. I don't know if like I don't know if Sheffield's got it, man. So
Yeah,
they
they're
didn't
done.
invest much this season, right? They just
No.
came up and they sold their best player, or
Yeah,
was it
and
movement?
Went to Marseille, who was a really big player for them.
Yeah. So we'll see, man. I mean, you sell a guy. Why would you sell your best player, and then you have to fire your coach? So you and hire a new coach. You lose that money that you made anyway because you have to fire your coach. Maybe if you didn't sell the player, you keep him. You'd be higher up the table. You don't have to fire your coach, and then you could not have to spend the money that you made on the player firing and hiring a new coach. So it's like, guys, is just apply some logic here, y'all.
I think the player
This
wanted
is
to
not.
go, to be fair.
He wanted to go.
Yeah,
Some guy wanted to go to France
he's
instead
a
of
French
playing the
player.
Premier League. Does he understand it's the Premier League?
I think he understood that it was Sheffield United in the Premier League and Marseille, a big, huge club in France and in Europe.
Does he know that they don't go to the grounds that in the Premier League that they have to go to in the Championship? It's just like you had a chance, bro. I'm confused on that one, so I'll just leave it right there. I'm completely confused. What are you feeling about Sheffield?
Yeah, they're done. They're cooked.
Damn, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean 9 points by this. You know, we're over halfway. Yeah, there's no coming back from this. They're you know, the changing the manager was that's rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. It's it's just for show. It's going down.
Was that why I hear a band playing every time I see Sheffield playing?
Maybe
I
yeah.
can hear
Yeah. It's a sinking ship.
It's a sinking ship. Yeah, it's a sinking ship that could have saved some money, but I guess you said the play. But they didn't even spend the money on an upgrade. They kept the money.
Mm.
So
Well, the player they replaced him with was Archer, I think, who came in.
oh yeah, from Villa. Yeah,
Yeah,
who's doing decent, but like you said, he's just young. He's
yeah.
inexperienced. He'll probably be really good at some point. I kind of believe in him. He's terrorized some teams a little bit, but yeah. All right. So that's it, man. What's any football? I don't know. How did Southampton do? Just to wrap Southampton
2
2-0.
wins in 2 games over the festive
Shit.
period. I went on Boxing Day. We played Swansea at home.
Mhm.
We won 5-0.
Damn.
I got to see us destroy someone, which I've been waiting for that. The game was only 2-0 at 71 minutes, and then we just went into overdrive for the last period. Like the other team, Swansea gave up a little bit. We had some really good players. We've got a deep bench for attacking players this year as well. So we just threw like Ryan Fraser came on for 20 minutes and he scored 2 and got 1 assist.
Damn.
Because we've been rotating through the team through Christmas. So to bring quality players on off the bench is just a good way to close games out. And we won our last home game before that against Blackburn 4-0. So we're in a good run at the moment. Ipswich have started slipping up above us. So we're only 3 points behind them now.
Oh shit.
We beat Plymouth the other day 2-1, which was a little bit closer than I'd have liked. But the goal they scored was right at the end. We fucked up at the back and gave them a goal. We were comfortable 2-0 before that. But then New Year's Day, we go to Norwich. So later today for me, we go to Norwich away, which is not an easy game. Norwich are inconsistent this year, but they're good. They've got good players. So this one worries me. We're on a 17-game unbeaten streak.
Unfathomable.
Yeah,
Unfathomable.
But I'm worried that Norwich will be where we lose it. We played them early this season at our place, and we drew 4-4, which was nuts. So game. Yeah, I mean, I would take a draw away to Norwich because that would be a good point on the road. But who knows? The players are confident right now, so I'm sure we could go out there and do something, but it just worries me. I don't know why. I'm just not feeling good about it.
If you lose, just don't go Villa fan on the players and on your coach. All right, just calm down. It's one loss in 17 games.
Yeah,
like keep it together over there.
Yeah,
yeah.
He's bought some credit. Like him and the players, they bought some credit with this run.
mm-hmm.
I won't. Yeah,
I'm not going to
lose. I'm not going to lose my head if they take a loss in this game.
Yeah, as a Man United fan, a 17-game unbeaten run is unfathomable to me. Unfathomable, bro.
Well, you want to get relegated, come down to the Championship. It's
no. We good. We good. I'm not stupid. I know it could always get worse. Like I'm not. I just want us to make a few tweaks, but Ten Hag ain't taking my calls, so I can't tell him what the tweaks should be. Because even though he is a better coach than me, coaches don't see the team, see what the fans have seen over a period of time. Like, hey man, watch out for that guy. He'll make you think he's gonna help you, and he ain't gonna help you. It's not his fault, but he's gonna love that you believe in him, but you probably shouldn't believe in him. Don't believe what your eyes are telling you.
I'm going to log into this podcast one week and I'm just going to see like Scott McTomminy tied up in the background in your apartment. And they'll be like, oh, Scott McTominay's gone missing. I'll be like, have you kidnapped Scott McTominay so that he can't play?
No, you'll just see him in a West Ham uniform or some other uniform. You know what I mean? I want to get him into the I want to get him in the right uniform. Like I like Scott. I want him to have a great career somewhere else. Yeah, man, we did it. We did another year of the Soccer Comic Rant. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, like, and subscribing on platforms. You got any football New Year's resolutions?
Just to try and watch games live wherever I can in and around, other commitments. So yeah, if I can get to more games, I need to try and plot when the next Southampton game I'm going to go to is. I want to try and watch some more stuff out on the continent in Europe. Find a city to go do some shows in and watch a game or two again, like I did in the Netherlands. So, who knows? Get back out to the States as well. See some more MLS.
Well, let me know. Maybe I'll try to meet up with you in some of these places. I'm going to be tied up in the beginning of the year, but shit, I should try to. The Euros is in Germany.
Yeah, in the summer.
I should try to. Germany's a good place to go. I should try to go see at least, I don't know how to get tickets and shit like that. I don't know if it's hard like it is for the World Cup.
It's difficult. You have to apply through UEFA and the application period has already happened. Me and some friends have applied for some, but I don't know if we'll get any of them because it's a lottery.
Damn. They need the lottery to spend money. Isn't that crazy? You need to win the lottery to get the opportunity to spend some of your money the way you want it. That's crazy. But yeah, man, but we love y'all that listen and watch, and we're trying to make it better. We got the Instagram going, Soccer Comic Rant. We got the clips going. During the week, we're going to do the podcast on Sundays now. That's why we're here Christmas, New Year's Eve / New Year's Day in England. And we put the podcast out tonight. So it's fresh, like hot bread on a Monday. It's there for you, you know what I mean, after all the games. So this is what we're doing, man. Anything you want to say to the peoples before we bounce?
I enjoy the comments, whether they're good or bad. Put them on the clips, put them on the YouTube thing as well, because if I'm in a good, if I've got time, I will respond as well, and I'll have a conversation with people if they don't agree. But there's people showing us love on there. There's people challenging us on there, and I like it all. It's that's what makes football, is that it's it's a game that gets everyone going. It's a game that generates opinions, and that's why we love it. It's it's always good to hear from people though, and to hear whether they're agreeing with us or think that we're talking absolute nonsense. So
yeah, I agree with that. Like, and there's so many opinions out there. Some of them surprise me, like, damn, that's pretty smart. So this is, I do this because I love football, but also I learn about football from Lee. There's so much shit I don't know. There's so many things in football you don't know. It's like life. You just learn something. Like, oh, that's a different way to think about that. Oh, okay, that's why they did that. All right, I didn't even think of that. So, we're here learning. I'm not no master. I know a decent amount, but I'm always learning something else new. It's a great hobby thing to follow. So we love you. Happy New Year. Be good. And we'll see y'all next year. One. Wait a minute. Press the wrong button.